Welcome to episode 327 of Pub Theology Live, a weekly conversation on life and faith over a craft brewed pint, a fine wine, or whatever happens to be in your glass. On today's episode, the Reverends Shannon Weston, Ogun Holder, and yours truly, Brian Burkoff, address and engage what's happening through a theological lens with a good brew in hand.
And that good brew might be in your very own Pub Theology Life pint glass. We still got five. Are we down to four yet? Like,
We
what's our
have
count?
mailed one off to a Patreon member. So
Nice.
I found another one. So we're
We're
back to
back to
five.
five. We're back to we got
We're back to
five.
five.
We got five glasses, guys. Five
We had
glasses.
five, we had six, and then we have five again.
All right. So we need five more. Five more you to sign up at patreon.com/PT Live. If you want a pint glass, next five signups, you can get even more banter, even more content. And for just a few bucks a month, you're helping to keep this train running. And we thank you with a pint glass. Well, we thank the next five of you with a pint glass.
I'll
After the five
even
of you, I don't know what's happening.
I'll even put it out there that like if you really want to give one to somebody for Christmas, it costs me $13 to mail it. So if you just want to, we can work out a deal.
We can work out a deal. There you go. All right. Good day to be listening to the show. Come get your pint glass deal.
Today
As
we're going to
always.
talk
Oh,
today
sorry.
we're oh.
Did I say did I say the website? Patreon.com/PT Live. And thank you to all our patrons.
Are we done?
Oh, yeah, I'm done.
It's going to be one of those days, isn't it?
Oh my God.
Today we're discussing anxiety, worry, and fear. So, what a lighthearted topic we have today. Brian, you came up with our topics. Why don't you share what you're drinking first?
What are you anxious about? What are you worried
Exactly.
about? And what are you
Yeah,
afraid of?
I mean, as happens, this is sometimes Brian's therapy session, so let's stay tuned. I am drinking Nanny State beer by Brewdog. It is a near beer, and it doesn't really describe the style. So
What do you mean a near beer?
Like a
Like
0% or what?
yeah, it's like a 0.5 percenter.
near as in almost.
It says
Almost. Is it almost?
almost a beer.
It's
Almost a
really
real beer.
close.
Near
It's
beer.
got a
Really?
nice deep, oh, I'll get it,
Near beer.
nice deep
Mm.
color. And oh yeah, it's a dank, it's a hoppy, it's an IPA style.
Dang. Jesus.
Is not a word I was expecting.
I know.
It's not bad.
Especially in a positive light.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Precisely.
No, see, well, a good IPA, sometimes the hops are a little dank, and
Is there such a thing as a good IPA? Anyways.
there is, and this one's good.
Ogun, what are you drinking today?
So as I mentioned last week, I had a flight to London for a few hours, and when I was in the airport, I got my favorite gin.
Nice.
It's a Japanese. Can you see the label? It's
Yep.
a Japanese craft gin called Roku. This is the people who create this, and it is one of the most delicious gins I've ever had. I bought a bottle of this, and then there's a bottle. I think it's Wheatley. They make a
Hmm.
rhubarb and ginger flavored gin, and so I got a bottle of that too, and so I got me a gin and tonic in tonight.
Nice.
Nice.
Shannon,
Um,
what's on
I,
tap?
I'm gonna make myself an old fashioned. I make
Ooh.
this is an apple cinnamon simple syrup because when I make it's apple season, and so I'll make like apple cake and apple crisp and stuff, and then I take all the peels and do it into a simple syrup with cinnamon. And I'm gonna make it with the Reserved series Sagamore Spirit, which is a Baltimore rye. Ooh,
Ooh,
sorry.
nice.
So I'm making it with a. It's very very tasty. So that's what I'm doing today.
Yum.
Awesome.
Oh, I can smell it through the
You
screen.
know, you know you can.
I can, I
You
really
know
can.
you can.
I really can.
So wait, why are you drinking so light, Brian? You got something going on, or are you just this is what you have
You know,
in the house?
I joined a poker night on Friday night, and let's just say mixed drinks started being served, and Brian was more focused on the poker than on how many drinks he was consuming. So I'm being gentle to my body.
It's Tuesday, right?
We're
Listen,
old, Ogan. We're all old.
listen, I have not been down for the count like that in a while. And little secret, I still had to write my sermon. Saturday was rough.
I had one of those a
Oh,
couple of weeks ago, and it was like 2 weeks, or I was like, nope. Like,
Right. So partly it doesn't even sound good right now.
right, exactly. You're like, I'm good. Like, yeah.
It was, yes. So
okay.
there you go. That's full disclosure. All right. On a scale of 1 to 10, one being no worries and 10 being totally stressed out, what level of anxiety do you generally feel on a given day? Let's say there's nothing special going on, it's just life is happening. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what level of anxiety are you carrying with you?
With or without my medication.
Ooh, wow. You
That's
you can give us
It
both.
has to be with because
You can
it's
give us
been a
both.
while since I've been without.
Well, there you go.
Because without the medication, I pretty much live at 10 or
Okay.
8 to 10.
Okay.
I mean, really, honestly, I live at 8 to 10.
Yeah,
And so, like, that's too high. Um,
that is way too high.
mhm.
I'm
Go ahead, Ogun.
no, I'm like at a solid 2.5, maybe 3. Yeah. That is it severely dropped since I started living in Lisbon. Also, since I stopped being a church pastor.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
yeah.
Stop telling
So
me what I should do with my life. Stop being a pastor, move to Europe,
there
and
you go.
no
There you go.
worries.
Hey, I'm about to hop back in the pulpit. So ask me this in about another 2 months, and we'll see.
I
We'll
will.
see where that is. Where
Yeah,
that
for
is.
me, day of the week does matter on this scale.
Hmm.
The closer we are to Sunday, I think it does just gently rise, but I'm similar to Ogun, 2.5 to 3, fairly chill, but yet there's always something, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's the world we live in, the kids, bills, whatever, general
Hmm.
church stuff. There's always something, but in general, I don't feel that anxious, which I know is a blessing for sure, because I know that's not,
A blessing and a privilege.
yeah, for sure.
Like I think I live I think that I still live between a 4 and a 6 regularly.
Yeah,
And part of that is, and like we were talking about this the other day, of like part of that is our life is just really complex, right? We are blended families in two different states, with exes that are different level, whether we getting along or not getting along, there's different levels of complication,
right.
there's different levels of kids' needs, there's
There's
job
four
stresses,
kids. There's
there's
four
four
kids.
kids,
Like,
there's money stresses, there's house stress, like we just live
yeah,
a really complicated life, let alone then we also have jobs where we care about people and are like
Yeah,
and
for
travel and
sure.
complication, right?
yeah.
So I was just saying this the other day that like I on one hand, I like to think of each of these stressors as situational, and I also situation after situation after situation, just year after year after year. So this is normal. Um, so I look forward, and I'm actually not sitting here like, oh, I look forward to the day that I can be you guys. Like that's not what but I am looking forward to some more simplicity. And 4 to 6 is a privilege for me to not
Sure.
be living in 8 to 10.
That's
So
relief when you're used to higher.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
But I,
Shannon, what
yeah.
what setting or what settings have you been in where you feel like that can drop below 4?
Um, well, when I'm on a beach in Mexico,
Boom.
Nice.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
but I'm assuming you're meaning non-vacation settings.
No, I mean, no, that could certainly be it, right? And that stresses the need for that. That's not that's you need that.
Yeah. So like I do try to put myself in situations when I need to drop below that where um so one of the things that I recently did is to keep myself on the 4 space and not the 6 space is like I went through our house and started to declutter and clean out and whatever in preparation for the move, but it also does help my anxiety level to not have clutter everywhere.
Yes.
It just does. Like that's just a
Yes,
reality.
for
And
sure.
so, yes, there are ways of doing that. So, for instance, when we have a rare weekend where we don't have any um like tasks or jobs or neither one of us is preaching, the kids don't need to go somewhere, whatever,
Yeah,
fill
yeah,
in the
yeah.
blank, a free weekend. I make sure that like there are pre-prepared meals. So like for instance, when I make lasagna, I make three lasagnas because it's not
Yay.
that hard to make,
Love lasagna.
right? Like it's not that hard. And once you get out all the stuff, so like we'll have one of those meals. So the planning does help me so that I don't have to make, because actually part of what a lot of my anxiety comes from being the executive decision maker. And
Right.
that is a lot of where, like, am I making the right decision? Is it right for everybody in the family and et cetera, et cetera.
Are there,
So
other than those things, are there specific activities that you feel like, oh, I can sort of like zone out or
if I go for a hike,
be
like
blissful?
I'm almost immediately,
Yeah.
um, yeah, if I'm in the woods on a hike, especially around water. Um, Also, if I'm alone and like I can take my dog, and anytime we can take the dog and put her off leash, you cannot help but be stress free because nothing is more of like perfect love and freedom than the dog off the leash.
Yeah.
Like,
Balm for the soul.
and I know that I've made this joke before, but like has to be where the term raw dogging comes from.
There you go. There you go. And then,
Because
yeah,
nothing makes you happier.
Oh
amazing.
my God.
Amazing.
Now, do you suppose? So I've noticed,
Or a kayak, like kayak on the water. I'm good on the
Yeah.
kayak on the water.
Yeah.
Kangaroo Walker is good.
Yeah.
So I can't help but notice that the two men on the show are like we're like ones and twos, and the one woman in the household is like rank. What role might gender
Mhm.
Hmm.
play in this? And are you the would you say the executive manager of your household because it's you as it's Shannon the person, or because this is just how traditionally sort of defaults to the moms in the house? Like,
I think it's both, to be honest. But I would say that for my, like, I don't know that I'm a natural, um, like, so for instance, I was describing, actually, I was describing going with a kayaking group. That there was a kayaking Facebook group that I'm part of, and they were going to go whatever. And I was just expressing to somebody, like, oh, I may do that this weekend, or I may whatever, but that kind of makes me nervous. And they're like, why? Because you're not leading? And I'm
mm,
like, no, like, I don't need to lead. Like, in fact, that's the reason why I want to go, is because
right.
I don't trust people. Like, that's a whole nother thing. Like,
Right.
but no, I don't need to be in charge. In fact, I mean, this is a whole nother conversation, but yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of, it is a role that I've stepped into because I've needed to.
Right.
And I'm not trying to, like, I've done a lot of work of like, is this needless worry? And sometimes, yes, it is.
Sure.
But also, what we've learned is w- like, so I've learned how to harness anxiety into motivation.
Sure.
Like I've learned how to do that. I also like it is part of my DNA. I come from anxious women. Like I have anxious children. Like it is part of my DNA to be
Mm,
anxious. It is. There's no question about that. And I have had to unlearn like a lot of
yeah.
that. I have to medicate myself for that and not in a bad way. I've when I've found a level where I'm like over medicated and I'm like I don't care about anything. And you know what? Not healthy.
Right.
Like, I'm not worried about anything. Go ahead. Who
Although, see
cares?
last week's episode title, I love you and I don't care.
And I don't care. But I no, I actually like the retreat I led this morning, I was leading conflict styles. And, one of the questions is like, what's your natural default? Which one do you need to lean more into? And like, I need to lean more into the avoider because I need to learn to care less. Like,
Yeah.
I just do. So I don't want to get into too much of a like women needlessly worry trope. And that's not where
Yeah.
you were going, Ogan. I know
No,
that
no, no,
wasn't.
no.
But I just want to name that like
Yeah.
women are often told like you're needlessly worrying. And the truth is that I do think in partnership, you could worry a little more. I wouldn't have
I
to
was
worry so
I was
much.
I was about to say because we men don't
Whoops.
worry enough. We don't worry
Yeah. I
enough.
mean,
What, me? Worry?
Exactly. Exactly. And we don't I think part of why we don't worry enough, and this is almost going to sound like a blame statement, but it's not. We don't worry enough because we know that you guys won't let it fall to shit.
right.
And
Right.
we take advantage of that consciously and
Sure.
unconsciously,
Sure.
sort of deal. And I think no other period really illustrated that to me more when I became a solo parent
Hmm.
after Jennifer died, which was me and Joy. And I was like, yes, if you'd asked me on the scale of 1 to 10 where he was during that time, yeah, hard 7 all the time.
Right. Right. And I do
Yeah.
think it's important also to distinguish when I'm worrying about something out of my control.
Mm-hmm.
I have learned how to let that go. And again, that's part of that. But I'm just I'm sorry, like most of what brought me down was not like this is why the church work wasn't healthy for me anymore. Like I
Yeah.
just couldn't I was functioning at this stress level for so long and it was anxiety for me.
Yeah.
But it was this reciprocal, it was feeding that biological like thing for me to be anxious all the time and it wasn't their fault. It was just the nature of
Yeah.
the job.
Yeah.
So like Brian, that's an instance of like it isn't, yes, the job is stressful and anxious producing, but if you're able to keep that at bay, kudos. Like
Sure.
I wasn't. I just wasn't. And that's just self-awareness.
Yeah, for sure.
Brian, how would Christy answer this question on a scale of 1 to 10? What do you think she'd say?
That is a good question. I don't know the answer, but it would be a little higher than mine, I think. I think she tends to carry more anxiety than I do. But she also gets more done than I do. So I don't know. Maybe maybe she's
Maybe that's why she does.
I mean, that's what I told you. Like Derek and I were actually, we were just having this conversation about anxiety. And I said, I don't want my anxiety to completely go away because I don't know how to be motivated without it.
Mm,
I
right.
just don't. Now,
Right.
maybe someday in the future I will find a way, but right now I really don't. It's the thing that gets me out of the chair and gets me doing
Well, and
stuff.
I wonder for me, is that part of why my sermon writing happens best at the end of the week? Like I need the
Sure.
pressure and almost the anxiety of, oh my gosh, it's Sunday tomorrow. Like it
Hmm.
literally has to happen right now or you're screwed. And I almost need that
the
energy to
the
finally,
the the mantra of all the best procrastinators, present company included.
yeah.
God leave it to the last minute. The pressure creates the diamonds.
It is, and it's crazy. I've tried to write my sermon earlier in the week and I struggled to do it. And for some reason, Saturday morning, like I do prep work during the week, of course. I read the
Mhm.
text, I read some articles, I mull over it, but it just doesn't all come out till Saturday morning, and that's when it
Yeah.
just works. And so I'm
Yep.
like, it works.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight it.
Right.
No, I'm with you. No matter how early in the week I wrote the sermon, I'm still thinking about it all the time, and it's
Yep.
not till you know Friday or Saturday that it's landing. So I was like, why am I starting to write this thing on a Monday or Tuesday?
Hmm.
Let me just
Yeah.
enjoy Monday through Wednesday, and maybe Thursday. Then I'll start trying to cobble something together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a
No,
head start this week. It's my day off, or Monday's my day off, but this morning, first thing I did was look at the text for Sunday, which is earlier than I normally do it. So,
I mean, letting it ruminate and like being, and again, not everything is about productivity, but like
Mhm.
that's why I call it motivation and not productivity necessarily,
yeah.
right? Like,
But the
um,
rumination is part of the work.
it is
Yeah.
absolutely part of
Yeah.
the work. Yeah. You can't do Saturday morning without the week's worth of,
Correct.
yeah, absolutely.
Correct. All right. In Matthew 6:34, Jesus speaks to worry directly, famously says, "Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." Now, he didn't say don't worry about today. Interestingly, don't worry about right now. But do you think, is this good advice? Is this realistic? What do you think the basis is for Jesus saying this? Certainly, in every era of human existence, there have been things to worry about. And he's speaking to people who are economically disadvantaged, who are under oppression. They certainly have worries. Like, is he giving bad advice, or is this something only privileged people can truly practice? Like, how do you assess what Jesus is saying and how helpful it really is.
So the more we learn about or we find out about Jesus's ministry and how it was supported and who supported it,
Ooh,
hashtag all the women,
right?
and
Yeah.
all the folks who are not mentioned, um, the man had people taking care of him, and he kind of, wherever he went, especially as word got around about who he was taken care of. So when we talk about privilege, it's it when you know you are going to be taken care of, you tend to worry less about what's coming next. Not saying Jesus was pampered in any way, just saying
The
there
Son of
might
Man has nowhere to lay his head, Ogun.
there might is it that he has nowhere or that he can choose everywhere?
Or that he's got a
So
lot of options.
Right.
exactly.
Even if it's a
So
rock in the woods, he's good.
right. So there might have been some of that context to him saying that, but I also think it's good advice from the point of view of there is only so much we can control within our lives.
Yeah.
Like there's very little we can actually control. In fact, from in a Buddhist context, the only thing we can ever control is how we respond to anything. And half the time, like we gotta work hard to get to that place where we can
Yes.
consciously and mindfully respond.
Yes.
But that's it.
Right.
Go
And
ahead.
my worry with this is that Jesus is inviting criticism of anxiety as a spiritual failing.
Go
Yeah.
ahead, Shannon.
I was just gonna say, I really do struggle with this verse, right? Like I do. So like putting this, especially like let's read this right now. The people who are living in states that are gonna take Trump seriously when he says take away their SNAP benefits,
Mm-hmm.
like do not. There is cause for worry. There are
Yes.
people without jobs who are like, "Oh, we're going to give you back pay." That's great, but like my mortgage company doesn't care about your
Right.
my back pay. Like whatever. Um I and so on one hand is that's out of my control. Like worrying about that is out of my control. Like whether or not, the SNAP benefit gets put in or not. And yet this is where like to Ogun, to your point, I don't ever want to, or Brian, sorry, to your point, like seeing anxiety as a spiritual failing is like that I don't have trust in God. My question is always what are you trying to like what do I need to learn from this anxiety in my moment in this moment? Like what do I value? So it's not that I value the money that's put on the SNAP card. I value like feeding my family and caring for my family. And that's human and humane
Yeah.
to
And you
do.
almost want to say, God, why aren't you worried about whether I can
Right.
be
Like, why aren't
afford
you worried about it a little more? Why don't you turn up the concern just a tiny bit,
just a
Like, because right now it feels like you're hardening a heart. And yet I do feel like this text is echoing manna in the desert, right?
Yeah.
Of do not store up more than you need.
yeah.
I really and so just scripturally, like just looking at it from a scriptural point of view, I think that this is echoing that wilderness. I'm going to provide for you what you need. So don't feel like you have to hoard because there's going to be enough for you.
And then the example he gives is like, look at nature, the birds of the air, the flowers of the field. Like they don't worry about what they're going to eat or what they're going to wear,
So
and they're taken care of.
right.
And yet,
So one of the things that this verse invites me into though is to be present. Be
Hmm.
present to what's in front of me, not to live in regret, which is past, or worry, which I often phrase as misuse of the power of our imagination, which is future oriented. I don't know that this verse is telling me don't make plans or don't
Right.
save money or don't do the things that will ensure the kids are fed tomorrow or whatever, like,
Hmm.
but there's a difference between that and obsessing to the point of anxiety you don't sleep,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So where's that middle ground? That middle ground kind of lies in the present moment. Can we be mindful to what is here now, be in a place of acceptance and gratitude for what is here now, And even, the I think the solution really ends up being about like community, which we keep getting
Agreed.
more and more away
Completely
from,
agreed.
right? So the more
Yep.
people we have,
Yeah.
and when we go back to the context of when, this was said, written, whatever, it was a much more community oriented culture of people rather than where we live and how we live now.
Mhm.
That's a great
So
call.
so people, regardless of their financial status, once they have a nice, strong, supportive community, they tend not to, I think, worry as much because they're going to look out for each other
Right.
as best they can. So I read this verse and I go like, okay, so what do I need to do to not worry about tomorrow? Part of that is have faith. Part of that is an acceptance of there's only so much I can ultimately control, and life gonna life, and I can't stop the bad things from happening. But I also know that once I surround myself with good people, good things will also happen, and
Mhm.
I'm not gonna go hungry or homeless if I know I have a good community of people to support me, right?
Yeah.
So in the worst of my, I am not making enough money, I don't own a home, and I am couch surfing around the place, and literally like I'm unhoused
Mhm.
and got a few $100s in my bank account, and that's the extent of it. There wasn't a part of me that ever thought there was going to be a night I wasn't going to be sleeping somewhere,
Right.
because I had people scattered all over the country, got folks back in Barbados. I know that there's people who are going to be like, you can crash here tonight. So even then, yeah, my anxiety might have been higher than it is now, probably a good solid 5, right? Because I knew that the support was there. So I feel like that's what this verse is inviting me into as well. This is when we isolate ourselves from each other, that's, I think, when we have cause to really worry about tomorrow.
Well, and again, it doesn't say like so the psalm says fret not, it tends only towards evil, right? Fear not, whatever.
Mm.
This verse is not saying do not worry. It says don't worry about tomorrow. Today hasn't, it's not saying your life should be free of worry.
Yeah,
It's saying focus on what is in front of you.
yeah,
Like you said, it reminds you to be present. What can I do right now? What is in my control? What is going on? How do I, whatever it is you need to do. So, for instance, in the SNAP benefits, okay, I don't know what the government's going to do tomorrow, but today, are my children fed? And if not, how am I going to make sure they are fed today?
right.
Tomorrow, I'll figure out how they're going to be fed tomorrow, right?
And when we spend too much time worrying about tomorrow, the future, and looking that direction, to your point, we miss the blessing that's showing up today. We miss the
Or we're
good in front of
paralyzed
us. Right.
and enabled to make it motivation, right? We're
Yes.
paralyzed in it. And I think that but I echo the community piece. And I think that's why if you look to nature, like the flowers, right? The lily of the valley or and the birds of the air,
Yeah.
like it is pointing to the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing in nature is isolated.
The
Exactly.
symbiotic relationships.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, good. And, I think if the word of God to Elon Musk, don't worry about whether the board passes your $1 trillion, you know,
Don't worry about
Oh
if
my
your
God.
rocket makes it to Mars.
Yeah.
payment, just worry about today.
I hope it does, and that you go and that you build your condo on there and
Yeah,
stay there forever.
yeah, just get on board.
I can get on
Mm.
board with you going to Mars. Go right ahead. Just make sure you stay there.
Exactly. All right. Psalm 27:1 says, The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? So, how would you describe the relationship between worry and fear? They're definitely connected, but not identical.
I think fear is a like it's a healthy warn, right? Like it's there for a good reason. Like if I am afraid, there's probably a reason I am afraid. and I should pay attention to that. Um, like again, not to get too whatever, right? But this verse has been um the Lord will save me, the Lord will take me from this situation. Um, well, okay, and
It
right?
can be used and abused.
And abused,
Right.
especially when you're being abused, right?
Oh, yeah,
Um, and for real, and right,
for sure.
like the Lord will. I mean, and you can also go back to that joke of the guy, the flood's coming, and the radio announcer says, and he says, "God will save me," and goes to the roof, and the boat comes by, and God will save me, and dies, and
The
God says, "What are you
helicopter.
doing here?"
Yeah.
I sent you a radio call and a boat and a helicopter. What are you doing here? You know. Um, but the I also think it's so again the like are you is the threat real? Is a good question, right? Is this threat real? Um like the worry, Ogun, to your point, right, is the misuse of imagination. The
Yeah.
actual like fear might be real.
And
Like
fear, the response to fear has kept us alive, right? It's like
exactly.
it's a survival, it's a necessary feeling that's kept us evolutionary alive through the whatever.
For instance, we were all young once, and all of us should have walked through the world a little more afraid than we did.
Oh yeah,
Like,
no seatbelts when I was a kid.
no seatbelts when I was a kid. When I was at the University of Memphis, I walked down alleyways I should have never been walking down. Like, and like I should have had a little more fear in me. At the
Yeah,
same time, it's not my job to put the fear of God in children, so they're afraid to
Yeah.
do anything. They're afraid to try anything new, stuff like
right.
that.
So so I mentioned earlier, worry is misuse of our imagination. So we can, dream up of worst case scenarios. Another Buddhist teacher, Tara Brach, she talked about fear as the anticipation of future pain. And because we don't like pain, we do what we can to avoid it. So for me, the relationship between these two is worry. I am imagining worst case scenarios, and then I'm afraid of the pain that will cause me. And so that's the relationship between the two. And so to the verse, the Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? So if I'm interpreting the Lord in my context as a, that spiritual, the divine essence within, that within me is all that I need for any eventuality, then I don't have to imagine worst case scenarios. Or even if I do, I can
Mhm.
say, hey, you know whatever might be out there, whatever I can dream up, within me is all the resource, the strength, the spiritual gifts to, you know, survive that, get over that, work through that, surpass that, transcend that. Um, and therefore, then I don't anticipate pain. Or if I know that pain might be coming my way, I also have within me to transcend that, to overcome that, survive that, whatever. So I think worry and fear are, again, those things that pull us out of the present moment of ourselves, and they make us forget, basically as divine beings manifested, how truly powerful we are, how truly just capable of grounding ourselves in love and compassion and all the things to make life work well and be well for everyone that we are. But we live in a world that is so based in fear and worry because we keep making a mess of it, and there are people who exploit that capitalize on that. Every culture war in the US has been about fear, the fear that they will turn your kids gay, the fear that, they'll do this, they'll take your jobs, just the fear of all these imagined nightmare scenarios, which if anyone just takes 2 seconds to look back in the past, realize that's never happened. None of the things that they told us to be afraid of to manipulate or vote have really happened, have come to pass, right? Remember, like Supreme Court just decided, yeah, we're not even going to take up the same-sex marriage case again. Like the law stands. And the fear, remember the fear back in, was it 2015, leading up to 2015, around what will happen if we legalize same-sex marriage.
It will be the demise of traditional marriage.
It will be demise of civilization itself, slippery
Well,
slope down to everything. But yes, that specifically was that. And here we are 10 years after that law being passed. And
I mean, if the divine punishment was sending us, you know who, twice, not once, but
but
twice.
twice. Well, I also really appreciated the argument that traditional marriage has been in demise since, forever. So,
Since
I
its
was gonna say,
institution.
maybe it should be.
just saying.
But I also like I don't want to, I know that we're discussing worry and fear, but like there is something comforting about this passage, right? And to Ogun, to your point about the capacity,
Yeah.
like the nature of capacity, um,
Yeah.
I think that there's something of like in scenarios I'm thinking of, like, hey, maybe you should be afraid. Maybe the fear is there for a good reason. Maybe blah, blah, blah. And yet at the same time, I'm going, and what I believe is that you'll have the strength to get through it.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's not about, again, not being afraid. It's about understanding that there's something bigger than this emotion in this moment, this feeling in this moment, this like that this is temporary, but there is something permanent.
And to not act from the fear. That's the other
I think
thing.
that's it. Yeah.
Feel the fear, but don't let fear drive the car because no good will come of it.
It tends only
Choice.
towards evil.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah,
I think it's
exactly.
actually later in Psalm 27. But anyway,
Speaking of evil, we have a text
we're talking
from
about the Senate.
Woo! Spoiler alert, yes. After the Senate agreement, the GOP posted on their Facebook page this verse from Proverbs 28:12, which says, "When the righteous triumph, there is great rejoicing, but when the wicked come to power, people hide themselves." Discuss your reaction to a political party using scripture in this way.
Did you guys see Daily Show from last night?
No.
John Stewart's whole monologue was entitled "What the actual fuck?"
Yeah.
For when no, sorry, I was wrong. I can't fucking believe this. For when I can't believe this isn't strong enough.
You're right.
And so yes, the folks in the Democratic Party who were just like, who did the flipping thing, I'm just like, oh. Like at this point, like I honestly didn't even get upset about it because I was just like, what? I'm not surprised. Like
Yeah.
again, not surprised. It was very disappointing, and also like, are they clear about who are the righteous and the wicked when they posted this
That was
verse?
my question.
Well, yeah,
My
right.
question is, who are you in this scenario?
Well,
Exactly.
you know who they think they are.
Well, but who is rejoicing and who is hiding?
I,
Because you had eight, right? Like you had eight people flip over to give you this, like, so it just, anyway, it's an interesting verse to choose is all I'm
it
saying.
really is.
Like it is.
So the way I read it, and maybe this is way off, was that we held out and we got what we wanted, so we triumphed. We're the righteous, and there's great rejoicing. And then was the second part a little like a side shot at Mamdani and the elections of last week, that when the wicked come to power, people hide themselves. Like
But
missing the
like
fact
people
that
aren't
they
hiding
actually
themselves.
Yeah.
control all three branches.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. When the wicked come to power, you control all three branches.
I
Like
know.
You're
you're
the
the ones
power.
in power. There's no reading of power that you're not the ones in power.
I know.
Like there's no reading of that. Anyway,
And
like
also, it's just not helpful, right, to throw out a text like this from the Bible using labels like righteous and wicked. And people, it's choose
and
your own.
again,
adventure
Es-
for people.
Especially after an election where Democrats won in landslides. Like, so who's hiding themselves right now? The
Right.
GOP was hiding themselves during the election.
Right.
And the
They didn't
shutdown.
show up.
Yep.
Yeah, and they were hiding in the
So,
shutdown as well. So I'm
right,
wondering if so let's assume they're referring to themselves as the righteous,
which,
and
I think
you
is their
know,
reading of this. Yes.
right. And so then therefore if the Democrats are the wicked, then to your point, after these last round of victories, and people are like, okay, this is foreshadowing the midterms, and we're gonna do the switch thing we do a lot of times during the midterms, and the Democrats will come to power. And then I think they're saying at this point, then it's all gonna go downhill. People will hide themselves. People will stay away. I don't know. I lost
Well,
my
I mean,
train of
it'll be
thought.
communism, Sharia law, the end of the world as we know it.
There you go. So
All the
then people
fears.
will all the fears. I don't know. I half the time I don't even
I
think they
think their
know why
dream
they're
is that people will hide themselves, but that is not what the reality is. Again, as always, I think there's a little bit of delusion happening.
Just a little.
I,
Just a
I
little
don't
tiny
even
bit.
think they know when they're using scripture what they're trying
They
to
don't
say.
know what they're saying.
Well,
They literally asked ChatGPT to give them a verse about righteousness because they're
I
Oh my
righteous,
I know.
god.
I'm
and
like,
this is
who
what
is
they came up.
running their social
I
media?
know,
Like,
right? Like,
what I've loved lately is the White House social media and the way they just get ratioed on the people laughing and leaving comments like, is this satire? Is this the Onion? Like, in what universe is this? It cracks me up. Like they could just get destroyed.
yeah, yeah. I have no idea.
What a time to be alive.
What? Yeah, exactly.
Oy.
All right. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river, and he's not the same man." So, how have you experienced this? Maybe returning to a familiar place um, after some time has passed, and so the place isn't the same, and you're not the same.
I love this expression. I've always loved this expression. Mostly because I love water and I love the idea of water flowing and
Yes.
moving and movement, and that you can't grasp it.
Mm,
Like, which is a beautiful metaphor for life, right? Like
it
it's a
is.
metaphor for each moment of like you can't hold on to it because the next one's gonna come.
Yes.
But adding the like, it's not just that the water can't be held, it's that you are forever changed from each moment. I just think it's a beautiful sentiment and a great I mean, this is where, and actually, I'm going to go back to the argue or the anxiety and worry and fear comments that we've been kind of discussing is like what I think gets lost in that is like, oh, we say the goal is to live a worry-free life, or the goal is to be, when really like the goal isn't overjoy and happiness. The goal is the middle to where we're content,
Contentment, yeah, that's what I'm
you
saying.
know, and that's really what this is like the acknowledgement that we need to lean into contentment, because sometimes we're going to dip down below it, sometimes we're going to dip above it, and that reality lives right there in the middle.
Yeah. And whatever we're experiencing, it means we're alive in
Exactly.
this
Yep.
moment.
Yep. And so to actually appreciate that you're not touching the same water as a different person, and not constantly, right? I'll never forget, one of the first people that taught me to meditate is in the church, and he was saying that he learned to meditate as a medical student, and he had this profound experience, and he's been chasing that experience ever since. And even as like a 17-year-old, I thought, wow, that feels really sad. That like
Yeah.
and actually, really, even if 17-year-old went, that's probably why you can't get it, is because you're chasing a memory and not like embracing the new experience of what's next, which again is easy to say for a 17-year-old. Now at 45, like I understand a little more of like wanting to have that experience again, but that's actually the learning, right? The learning is I can't ever have that experience again. Ogun, to your point that you've been saying, I can appreciate that it happened
Yeah.
and I can look for the next one.
I've had that experience. I've had that experience in meditation where I swear I touched the allness and the nothingness of the universe and never got it back and actually stopped meditating for a while
Yeah.
because
Because of the
it was,
disappointment or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
every meditation after that felt unfulfilled until, you know, I had to get to that place of going like, it's okay if I never get back there because they're never actually left. They're
Hmm.
still there.
Yes. There became part of you that you
Exactly.
carry with you forever.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
again, I know this might sound weird, but like and so for me, I've also had a moment, right? I've had a moment in prayer and singing and experience where I'm like, this is it, man. Like this is as good as it gets. And when I think back at that moment now, I don't go, oh, I wish I could have that moment back. I go, wow, I know I'm capable of that still. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't just that I was capable of it once. I am still capable of that. And isn't
Exactly.
that beautiful?
Now I use, drugs and psychedelics to help get me there. And I'm telling you, I'm
Sorry.
telling you.
I don't know why that was unexpected. That was like the most predictable thing to come out of your mouth, but it still caught me by
I
surprise.
know you always spit your drink out there. It's like you've heard me say this before,
I know, I'm not actually
right?
surprised, but I don't know why it just caught me.
So now it's like, oh, now it's not so much about getting back there, but now the joy is exploring all the ways I can get back there. And it's really cool. Now I'm engaged again. Now I'm engaged again. But the question I
Logan's just
have,
closing the
sorry.
loop on the show, right? The drugs can help us reduce anxiety and also
And also get us
touch
to a
touch
place of
the all that
euphoria.
is.
You're welcome. You're welcome. But so the question about this saying for me though is then how are we defining the river, right? Is the river just the flowing water? Are we talking about the banks? Are we talking about, the solid ground under the river? Because yes, that changes as well, but a lot more slowly
Hmm.
over time. When are we stepping in the river for the second time? How much time has elapsed? So yes, not to nitpick and overthink it, but the water's gone by, sure. I might not be the same, or I may or may not have changed a lot. I don't know. But if I come to that exact same spot on the riverbank 2 days later, sure, not the same water. I don't know if I've changed that much in 2 days, unless I've had some really profound like transformation experience. And or the bank, that spot in the river where I step in, that ground, under the flowing water, how much has that changed as well? So you know, again, this might be all the drugs and psychedelics talking, but
I think you're leaning a little too hard into the metaphor here. I don't know. No, I
but
mean it's fair. It's fair.
you know,
Well, but
I think there. So yes, I think the whole point of this is to exemplify the change in nature of things, right? That nothing is constant,
Right.
yep.
right? Change is the only constant. Make peace with change. You're gonna be okay. And at the same time, sometimes there's also something to be said for, again, that for me, when I hear contentment, you mentioned, Shannon, I also feel like there's some level of stability and predictability
Yeah.
that comes along with contentment, not exactness and sameness all the time, but some
Hmm.
comforts in routine, some comforts in, as I like to say, curating a life you don't have to run away from, a life that keeps you at that, back to our first question, that two level of anxiety or the one level of anxiety. And I think there is something to be said for, again, creating that life of contentment and stability and being able to say, I am not bored by this. This is the
Hmm.
contentment I've been seeking. So that's where I go with that as well.
Brian, you haven't jumped in on this one, so I'm just curious if you had
Yeah,
anything
I
to
mean
add.
I to me I when I read this quote, I think of like going back to a place that like for me like let's say going back to the town I went to high school in, which is I only lived in that town for the 3 years that I attended high school there. So it was like a moment in life, right? When I
Hmm.
was a certain age and blah, blah, blah. and I don't go back there often, but if I were to go back, like the town has changed and probably I wouldn't know most of the people and I'm a totally different person. Or I think of when I was running for office, I went to the church I grew up in as a kid that I was a part of for like 8 years. And now I'm an adult and I hadn't been back there since I was maybe in eighth grade.
Right.
And like I've deconstructed a lot of the things I was taught in that place, and I
Hmm.
see the world in very different ways, and just weird to be in that same space that you were in a formative time, and now coming back, and there's just like you can't recapture what was, like you can
Yeah.
appreciate it and be grateful for the gifts you received in that place and some of the things that were hard that you kind of, I didn't need that, but it was a part of my story and it's something I've had to deal with, and that too is a part of my journey. It's just
But
an
I think,
interesting, I don't have a lot profound to say. It's just an interesting part of being human.
yeah, but I think that's a really good example, like Ogun, to your point of like there are people in that place that expect you to be that 8-year-old still, that believed
And
what that
that's the
8-year-old
thing.
believed. And so, to your point about taking the metaphor too far, right? Like those could be the rocks because those are slow to move
Ooh.
and to erode. But
Yeah,
right,
there's
over
sometimes
centuries, it's the
yeah,
Colorado River at the Grand Canyon, you know.
right. But
Um,
and sometimes we go back to the town we grew up in, the place we grew up in, and that store that's been there since we were 12 is still there, or
yeah,
Right.
certain people who, you know, are still there, or sometimes things haven't changed that
right.
much.
Except
We
that
might have,
now the baseball cards, instead of being 35 cents, are $3.50.
But I think that that's why both of these are important. It is not just the river that changes, it's also the person that changes.
Correct.
And
yeah.
I think both of those are important because you can walk back into a place that has not changed, maybe the price for whatever, right?
Well, yeah, yeah,
But
but
Mhm.
but
but
I
right.
am
It
different.
feels frozen in time in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Right.
because like, and again, maybe you're igniting a core memory kind of thing, but like you are different in that moment. And, you know, I don't know.
And there are
So,
certain places I go back to when we like where we first raised our kids, where our kids were born up in northern Michigan, and I have almost only positive memories, and I'm filled with both nostalgia and a little like sad longing because I
mhm,
missed that time, and it was
right.
so good and rich, and I partly want to go back, but I know I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I don't want to have babies again. So,
That's the man speaking.
Ah.
speaking, like, also lowering my anxiety, having teenagers that can function on their own. So,
Exactly.
thank you, friends, for tuning into Pub Theology Live. You can show your love for the show by becoming a supporter on Patreon. Get access to pre and post show banter and more. Visit patreon.com/PT Live to get started. A big thank you to our current patrons. You can watch full episodes on YouTube, and our top cities tuning in this week are Boardman, Michigan, Santa Clara, California, and Ashburn, Virginia.
What happened, London?
I don't,
What?
London dropped off the
Come on,
map,
London.
man.
Wow.
You visited, and now they're like, okay, we're done. We've had
You
enough
know
of
what it
them.
is? As soon as we ask them, we invite them to bring us over. The
Oh,
same thing
yeah.
happened with the Australia
The
folks. We were like,
Australians, yeah.
bring us over, and then they disappeared. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
Nobody bring us anywhere. Let's try that. See
I
what
mean,
happens.
listen. So if you would like to start a pub theology gathering in your town, find support and resources at pubtheology.com. So until next time, friends, drink responsibly and keep those conversations flowing.